Thank you so much, Tom. I, like Tom said, it's a luxury. We have to see it like that. We had 26 people registered for the webinar, and there's 5 of us. So it's a luxury. So let's make the most of it. Whoever is attending, make the most of it. Ask away. If you have a scenario in your head that impacts your business, please do ask away. We have another luxury here. Mark Barrett is with us. He's a tax expert, so he's an accountant, but he has a lot of experience doing, spreading his wings in the tax field. So as you can see in his background, he's expat tax expert, and we are working together on a collaboration because it's closely related. But Mark, do you just want to say a few words?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Patricia, for inviting me in to speak as well. I'm really looking forward to the presentation. I know how much of an expert you are. My own firm is using you for various works that we're doing on business visitors. My personal background is I've worked internationally for decades, and our firm is called Expat Tax Advice. So anyone that's in a non-resident situation, whether you're emigrating, immigrating, investing, setting up companies in the UK, whatever, I'd like to think we might be able to help. So you can always reach out to us, and if I'm allowed, I'll put my details into the chat box later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Please do share your details, and if you don't mind, we're already working together. I do refer clients to Mark, so if you miss his details, just get in touch with me and I will put you in touch with Mark. No problem at all. So let's start the do's and don'ts of business immigration. Can everybody see the slide, the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Fabulous. I know it's early, so you might not want to put the camera on, but it's always nice to see your lovely face in the morning. But I'll leave it at your discretion. So I will start. And I apologize in advance. I have a cold, so sorry about that. So boring stuff, just quickly. Disclaimer, the content of this webinar is not legal advice. This is just us discussing the do's and don'ts of business visitor visa. If you are in a situation and you do need advice, please do get in touch, and we will look at your situation and see whether it applies or how we can work around the immigration rules and making sure that you're compliant at all time. So that's the only boring legal bit I had to say. So if we go on to the next slide, actually I shouldn't really follow the slide. I just wanted to say this webinar, yes, we when we talk about visa, we often think, oh well, you have to apply for a visa. I'm American, I'm Canadian, I'm Australian, I don't need to apply a visa. Does this apply to me? Well, it does. Even if you come from a visa-free country that allows you to come to the UK for leisure, for business, for up to 6 months, you still need to comply with the requirements and make sure that you're eligible and make sure that what you plan on doing in the UK, you're allowed to do it. At the end of the day, the fact that you're visa-free country is when you arrived in the UK, this is when you get a visa, your stamp, or if you use the e-gate, that is when you get your permission to enter. So you're still bound by the same requirements and rules. So that's very important. So this webinar applies to everyone. So the basic thing here is that you must intend to work in the UK unless the work is permitted by the immigration rules. So what is the permitted, so it's very restricted in terms of actually permitted work, permitted activities, and we are going to go through that. I'm hesitating because I wanted to ask question to see how many people in the group were actually working for a company that actually do have a multinational company that often have people coming to visit them in the UK from another branch outside the country.
Yeah, we do, Patricia. Is very multi-diverse across the globe, and in fact, we're seeing business visas picking up again for the first time in just over 2 years. So we are actually really quite strict with. We'll scrutinise everything they're saying they're doing. We actually limit the amount of time we allow our associates in the UK so that it can't continue and possibly be construed as work.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. If you don't mind me saying, Kim is actually an immigration manager in-house for quite a big company. So it's actually really, it's another privilege to have her on board, because we can maybe hear a bit of an insight into how she process or work in immigration from an in-house point of view. She might have some good tips for you all. So Kim did say it's picking up, the visitor visa is picking up. True, I have some stats here. Basically, that is from March 2019, mainly because the statistic have been altered just because of the pandemic. There wasn't as many visitors coming in. So basically, that's the last time, March 2019, that the world was actually going a bit more normally, and we had visitors coming in and out. So if you look at that, 80% of migration of people coming in are actually visitors, not only business visitors, but also people coming here as just to visit the country, but it includes business visitors. So we can tell that there are many visitors coming to the UK, and not everyone are aware that what they're allowed to do and what they aren't allowed to do. So let's just go quickly through some of the permitted and prohibited work. I have it here. Does anyone is anyone familiar with what people should be allowed to do when they come and visit? Let's say you have a representative of your branch in India, or the head office in India, or America, or Canada, what they can come to the UK to do, and what they should avoid doing. Is it something that you've experienced in the past? Yes, Kim. Good. So you will be more than aware that of course they can come and attend meetings, conferences, seminars, and interview, negotiate and signing deals and contracts. So that's the usual, very, very useful, especially if you have a head office outside the UK. Attending trade fair, carry out promotional work, providing they're not selling directly to the public. That is a very important point. And also someone can come here to gather information for their employment overseas, and briefing on the requirements of a UK-based customer, providing any work for the customer outside the UK. So there are obviously also, which we'll go in details when you're talking about intra-company, sometimes you can have people coming over to do specific work, and we will discuss that later on. I think the most important one, yes, they're permitted to do some of the work, but I think we really need to focus on what they're not allowed to do, because that is where you can get in a pickle and get issues for your business. And And well, yourself, just going forward, if you ever want to have a license, to apply for a license to sponsor foreign nationals, to acquire international, recruit international talent, whatever you're doing now may have an impact, will have an impact going forward, should that be the case. And we all know that there is a major labor shortages across all economic spectrums. So that's something worth bearing in mind. So the prohibited work, well, like we said earlier, being employed in the UK, that is a big no-no. Carrying out work for an organization or business in the UK. So that is, again, a big no-no. An example of that, I'd say, I had a client who once contacted me, wanted, they had someone going on maternity leave, but was just going for a few months. And they said, well, we don't want to recruit by the time, you know, there's no point in recruiting. By the time the person get the grasp of the work, the contract will be finished. So they wanted someone from I can't remember which country, but let's say America, coming to cover for that maternity leave. Well, obviously, and they didn't want to sponsor them, so they thought, well, possibly they could come as a business visitor, and that is a big no-no, because they cannot come to the UK to fill a job and work for the UK company. So that is definitely a big no-no. Cannot set up or run a business on a self-employed basis. Participating in a work placement or internship, direct selling to the public, again, providing goods and services. Mainly the reason for that is that there are visas specific for those type of activities. So it's always very important, especially in a business environment, to always have a look at, right, what do you need, what do you want to achieve, what will the person come to the UK to do, and then whether they could qualify as a business under the business visitor route, or they have to apply for another type of visa. And I would say, if any doubt, apply for a visa. I've done that with a client recently. It was a gray area, and also they did put themselves in a bit of a pickle because it was a acquisition of the UK company, and they were sending someone to the UK to make sure that everything was going to be all the same across all the branches in Europe. But the person was coming for about a year, which that you can't come under the business visitor visa for a year, having a flat, having registered with HMRC, having, you know, it was clearly not just a business visit. So, but in the end, this person returned to their home country for a while, and we've applied for a visitor visa. They came from a visa-free country for a business, for any visitor visa. So we just wanted to square it with the Home Office. We just wanted to say, look, we made a mistake. Well, I dealt with a situation. It had already happened. I didn't advise on that one just initially. So, but when they came to me, I said, look, with the Home Office, always be upfront. I know they have the Home Office has a bad reputation, but to be honest, I never had any issues. You always have to show, look, we thought that was the initial situation. And then we realized that, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done it that way. So the individual went back home, waited for a few months, and now we are applying for a business visitor visa, so this person can come back to the UK to finish the contract, what we wanted her to do in the UK for a short, there was about 4 months left, or 3 months, so that to make sure that their software system was the same all across the various branches. So the UK company was following all the processes and system that the other branches had, and it got granted. So if in doubt, I would say always come clean, go up front with the Home Office and just say, look, this is what happened. So you may want to seek legal advice before doing that to make sure that your house is in order, just in case they decide to ask you questions. But what we did is just basically submitted all the information we had and justified the intra-company transfer for intra-company activity, just to cover that a part of the acquisition, and it was successful. So a little tip there. So I'm trying to move this slide. So the general business activities that can be carried out. So it needs to be related, linked to their the individual's individual employment abroad. That is very important, and it should be pre-arranged and for less than 6 months. And often you'll get in that, whoever dealt with situation like this, you would definitely need to get a letter inviting them to the UK, even when they apply, or even when they come at the border, if they're from a free visa country, they will need to have a letter inviting them in the UK to for that trip, and always belt and braces. If it's part of a multinational company, it could be that also the head office in India also have a letter produced, give this individual a letter confirming the need and why, what's the purpose of that business trip. And I think the Home Office always like to see that everyone is aware of what is allowed and not allowed to do. And if, sometimes the employer would confirm this is what they're going to do, the activities will not fall outside the scope of what's set out here. And that gives reassurance to the Home Office. So, and another one is making sure that the activities do not amount to work in the UK. That so if, let's say, they need to stay, or they need to stay longer, or a bit going back to the situation with the example I've given you, it may be that they have to go back home and apply for the proper visa. So for example, a skilled worker or innovator, if they want to set up the business here. So for example, we talked about what they are allowed to do, permitted work. Someone come to the UK to gather information for their employment overseas, for example, or negotiating, signing deals and contract. And then eventually they think, you know what, I really want to set up a business here. Then they would go back home and then apply for an innovator visa, or, well, if they don't have a company here, likely it will be an innovator visa. Otherwise, a skilled worker, they would need to have a business in the UK that would sponsor them to come and work here. If you're a multinational, it could be a intra-company transfer, or just skilled worker to allow them to work for the UK branch. So often, depending on, so we say it's 6 months, that the maximum period that they're allowed to come, but it's often the Home Office will look at the activity they are looking to undertake, which will often determine whether the business trip is reasonable, and whether it's a genuine business trip. So that is another very important aspect of it. In any visitor's visa, basically, the Home Office will always look, when you come at the border, is how often does this person come to the UK? What do they come here to do? And are they trying to establish their home in the UK, or work in the UK by visiting the UK on a regular basis, coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and spending more time in the UK than in their home country? Those are the kind of things that the Home Office will have a look at. And when we talk about the 6 months, there is a people seem to think, well, a lot of people think that it's 6 months in, 6 months out. that is not from an immigration point of view. That is not how it works. I cannot comment on tax, but from an immigration point of view, that is definitely not how it works. It's all about what's your intention, how often do you come here, do your travels to the UK amount to you building a life here and settling. Basically, your life is here, so that could have that's what they're going to look at. So you can come for let's say a month, but you've been coming in and out in the past 2 years constantly, and you never really stayed in your home country in Canada. Well, they will start asking you questions, and even if you say, oh no, I'm just coming here for a few weeks, that you might have issues. So that is how it works. So always when you travel, like even for business, make sure that you have evidence of your ties, that the employee that is coming to visit you here have evidence of their ties in their home country. One is an employment, so a letter confirming their employment in the UK, confirming that they're coming here for a business trip and they are expected to resume work in their home country on such a date. So that's very important. Now, that is definitely a situation when we talk about frequent visit. I would say definitely if that happens, speak to Mark as well. A lot, if someone spends a lot of time in the UK and do business, you have to think carefully about immigration, but they may be tax implication. I can't comment on that, but it's something definitely worth squaring with a professional like Mark. Do you want to say anything, Mark?
Yeah, thank you. I was about to, yes, the HMRC will be looking for, whilst you've got the 6 months that you've just been describing, because the 6 months, of course, trips over, are you resident, non-resident? If you're working in the UK, and there's lots of definitions here, and we're talking about incidental duties and all sorts of things, so I'm not going to get into the detail of that, but 30 days is the maximum. And remember, a working day is only 3 hours long as far as HMRC is concerned. So if a person is working in the UK for 30 days, for periods longer than 3 hours per day, there's potentially a tax implication. So it's always worth checking the tax position, not just, obviously the visa is important, essential, that's why I'm here. But the tax position is important too.
Thank you so much, Mark.
So Patricia, we have a question in the chat from Juliana.
Go for it, Juliana. What's the question, Tom? Sorry.
Hi, Patricia. Please, is the 6-month visa granted under multiple entry or only single?
You have to apply for a multiple entry. What I would say, often you'll notice that when you apply for a visa for a one trip that you've planned, or that you've planned for your employee, they may give you, often they give a multi-entry visa, but I would always say, unless you've applied for a multi-entry visa, which is once you've built a reputation with the Home Office and you can show that you have a genuine need for multiple visits, but that you remain based in India, for example, then they might issue that for 2 to 5 years, so that allow, but again, you're still restricted for the 6 months. But when you apply and you say, okay, I want to come to the UK for a business trip in April for a fortnight, and these are evidence, this is where I'm going to stay, this is what I'm going to do, who's I'm going to meet, this is an invitation letter, and then you're issued with a multi-entry visa with a window. Stick to what you've put on your application, and leave when you said to the Home Office that you would be leaving, and if you for some reason you need to reasonably extend for a very important reason, and you can justify that the next time you apply for your visa, do so. But I would never say, even if they give you a multi-entry visa for 6 months, but you've applied for a one entry visa for one visit, stick to that and don't come back, apply for another visa. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This is it's also part of building the reputation with the Home Office. Unfortunately, now I'm talking generally speaking, visitor visa, the Home Office, it can be a bit skeptical about some of the application, especially where, depending on where the applicant is from. So by really sticking to what you're telling the Home Office, it will just help one's case going forward, and it will show you're not a threat. Reassure the Home Office you're not a threat to immigration control, and you will follow the immigration rules. So that is a very, very important one. Yeah, unfortunately, the depending on where you're from, sometimes the Home Office is quite quick at refusing visas. So you just want to really follow what you're telling them, so they know they can have confidence in you. So remote working, this is something I really, really wanted to mention. And again, I will mention Mark again. Remote working. So visitors, so you have a CEO coming from your head office in India, coming to the UK to undertake permitted activities, and they decide they don't always have meetings during the day, therefore they want to work from the UK, responding emails, answering phone calls for their job based in India. Well, that is allowed to a certain extent, provided that it's not the purpose of them traveling here, so they're not here and just wanted to work remotely from the UK and have a jolly here, and so this is not permitted, but they can do it. And now you tell me if I'm wrong, Mark. During the pandemic, I had a client who actually, the client who was acquired, the UK company was acquired by an Italian company. And so they had people coming over, but with the quarantine, there was a concession allowing them to stay and work for a few days, so they didn't waste time having to quarantine here, there, and constantly. Am I?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There was a concession specifically during the COVID period. Unfortunately, people latch on to the fact it was a 60-day concession, but it was 60 days if you cannot travel. So if you're prevented from traveling, so if you were I've got one issue which I'm dealing with for a Saudi right now, where he said, "Oh, fine, I'm allowed 60 days." So he just took 60 days. But actually, the borders had reopened. He could travel. He chose not to. So it's not 60 days as an allowance. It's up to 60 days if you cannot travel.
Yeah.
So he's tripped into some UK taxation now.
Oh dear. So definitely something to think about. My example was more of a matter of a gap of a day or a few days, a couple of days between two visits, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything in the UK, if they had to constantly go back to Italy. But it was for a short period. And they did get tax advice, so they did do it properly. But it's something that I'd say very, very important. And I mean, if there's some clients of we work together on a sponsorship sponsor visa, and you may recall that I would say, "Oh, I'm not a tax advisor, but your employee who wants to work remotely from their home country." I had loads of questions like that from clients after the pandemic, after 2 years, wanted desperately to go and visit their family in their home country, which I totally understand. And I would get contacted by the company saying, can they go for a month? Can we're happy, their job allows them to work from home, so we're happy for them to go back to I keep saying India, but Egypt, or can we allow that? We'll still pay them, but you have to be very careful with that. Again, from a tax point of view, obviously not UK tax first. I don't know if there's any UK tax implication, but in their home country as well. You have to think about the same thing as Mark has been mentioning, in their home country. And I have been saying, just square it with a tax advisor and in their home country as well. So those are very important points, I'd say.
Okay, can I throw just one in, may I?
Go for it.
Yeah, we've actually got the reverse situation. You're talking about the tax position in the foreign country, the overseas country. It personally affects me. I spend an awful lot of time out of the country. I'm delighted to say that I spend probably 3 months at a time in Europe. But of course, now with Brexit, I've got to be damn careful that I don't work for too long whilst I'm in any particular country and in the EU. And I have to keep coming back, spend some time back in the UK, then I can go back out. I've got to keep breaking up my pattern. Otherwise, I will end up with having Napoleonic taxes, which is the last thing I personally want. If you think the UK tax is tough. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So definitely all very valuable points to bear in mind when we are dealing with business visitors coming in and out. So if we go to the intra-corporate activities, it is possible for an employee from an overseas business, so for example, India, America, coming to the UK to advise and consult. They can do a bit more than your one business individual wanting to come here and not linked to another company, sorry. So they can come here to advise and consult, troubleshoot, provide training, share skill and knowledge. That goes back to the example I've given you for a client that I dealt with recently, an acquisition, a multinational company acquiring a business in the UK. That is something that they will definitely want to share skill and knowledge, and maybe change the system. So that will be something that they would be allowed to do. But again, be very careful how long they're coming here to do it for, and what's the other arrangement around it. Like I said in my example, this individual was coming for a long period of time. I think it was an initial period of 8 months, and had registered with HMRC, had signed a lease, tenancy agreement. So the situation is very different to intra-corporate activity, someone coming from the head office overseas to share skill and knowledge. So be very, very careful with that. But it's definitely something that is allowed. But they are not allowed to provide work directly with clients. It's actually to help in-house, help people to adapt or understand the new system following the merger, for example, or a change in the system. Sometimes I do see that a lot. The head office decides to change completely the way all the group works in terms of software, and they will want to make sure that everybody understands how they want it to work. So that is quite common. So that is an internal project, like I said on my slide. That's a very important one. So other very important point for intra-corporate activities is that, again, they don't intend to fill a role in the company. And you'll recall earlier we talked about the intra-company transfer. So if someone, for example, really wants their skills at their head office overseas, that they really want the UK company to benefit. And it's not just training, it's also, making sure that they put everything in place, and it will be a year or 2 year program. That will have to happen. This individual will have to be sponsored under the intra-company route. which or skilled worker route, depends on what the aim is. Because I won't bore you with that at this stage, but there are various restrictions for insurance company employees. Oh my goodness, so sorry. So they will need, when they come and visit, if they are here as business visitor, they will need to be based at the office of the UK business that is part of the group, and not travel on client site unless it's for a meeting, obviously, because that is allowed. So that is a very important point. I'm so sorry. Okay, so there are specific roles requiring that you will be allowed to come to the UK to do a bit more as part of the type of job you're doing. I will just mention them brief in passing, but I very much doubt that is the type of role that the people are attending. I might be wrong. You raise your hand if I am. But it might be totally, it's quite specific. So you have translator, interpreter, PAs, bodyguards, tour group, courier, journalist, archaeologist, professor, and market researcher and analyst. Those are jobs that where you would be allowed to come to the UK and do some work in certain circumstances. But I'm not going to talk too much about that. If you have any question, by all means, do get in touch. If it's an area, a field that concerns your business, I'll be more than happy to talk about it a bit more. And there is also the science, research and academia sectors. Those are sectors that the Home Office have specific rules for, and they give them a bit more of allowance in terms of them coming here to come and gather information for a specific project, sharing knowledge, and academic, it could be formal exchange with counterparts, so doctors, carry out research, take part in research, teaching and clinical practice, so that those are all allowed. But you need to be an expert in your field. So that's a very important point. I wanted to, sorry, I should give you a bit of a time to think. Do you have any question while I take a sip of tea? No. Okay. I wanted to briefly touch on the permanent paid engagement. So this is different, still as a visitor, but it's for as professional artists, sportsmen, qualified lawyers wanting to make representation or go to court, give lectures, series of lectures, academic, air pilot examiner. So you are allowed to come to the UK and be paid in the UK for up to 1 month. Again, I have no idea whether there's any tax implication, but if you were to come to me, I'd say square it with your accountant. Mark.
You're struggling really badly there, but your cough. Do you want to take a break for a moment? The situation, of course, with these permitted paid engagement ones, there's an area that we work a lot with is the performers, so the professional artist, entertainer, musician, and sports person, and they got very distinct roles, because HMRC, whilst you're allowed to visit on a visa, then you're performing a service in the UK, and HMRC will be looking for their cut. Which feels to me as if HMRC worked like a mini mafia. Yes, they'll let you just give them their cut. But I suppose I shouldn't say that on something that's going to be recorded, but it feels like it sometimes. Okay.
let's be realistic. I get we just, yeah, thank you very much for sharing that insight, Mark. So and obviously they cannot do paid work that is unrelated to what they their main job is overseas, so it all needs to be linked. But that is yeah, definitely speak to Mark if that affects your business or someone you know that wants to come to the UK to visit. And again, it's for up to a month, so we're not talking 6 months here. So a bit of interaction. Who's up for it? So I have 4 situations, and I'd just like to know who wants to comment as to whether Alexander Matheson would be able to come to GK on a business visitor visa. So Alexander opened his flower shop in his hometown in Munich. As a child, his family visited the UK a lot. His father has recently passed away, so Alexander would like to open a florist in the UK to honor his father's memory. Would he be considered a business visitor? Would he be allowed to come to the UK to do that?
You might be able to come initially just to have meetings with suppliers and stuff like that, but not to actually set it up.
You're right. So he can't set up or run a business on a self-employed basis because it's prohibited activity, but he can indeed come to the UK to gather information ahead of opening a business. So he went ahead of actually going back to his home country, to Germany, and then applying for the right visa, either a startup or innovator visa. Mind you, I'm not sure it would qualify a florist. He would have to come up with a good business plan and a innovator idea to actually meet those requirements, but that is definitely the case. Thank you so much, Kim. Who wants to tackle the other one? Victoria. Victoria works for a very successful art gallery in Brasov and is coming to the UK to negotiate a contract with executors of the Tic Modern. The plans to respond to work emails from her hotel room, as she has other deals completing in Brasov while she is away. Can she perform those activities as a business visitor? Well, yes.
Not sure. Wait, can she?
Yeah, she can. You're right.
So I thought that you were trying to catch us out with the responding to work emails, because technically is that my thinking was maybe that would have been classified or considered as work if you're technically, because I know it's not being carried out in the UK, but it's a form of work. So I thought maybe that might have caused some complications. But
well, she's allowed to come to the UK to negotiate contracts, so she's allowed to perform those duties, and she is allowed to answer or deal with emails with respect to her job back in Romania. So that is totally fine. But again, she needs to be careful how much of that she's doing. If she has one meeting, she's staying here for 2 weeks, one meeting, and working remotely from her hotel, working as if she was in Romania, doing her job in Romania, well, that might be an issue. And again, big flag, whether there might be some tax application. That is a scenario, I'd say. Again, I'm not a tax advisor, so all I can do, I think it's always better to be cautious. And if you have a good accountant, a good professional supporting you like Mark, you can just run past him quickly, phone call, email, one sentence, are we okay doing this? And they will support you every time. So that's my suggestion. You better just check every time. Next one. I'm going fast. If you have a question, stop me. Merjam discovered his passion for architecture when building a shed to store his collection of vintage tableware. Since then, Emerjima has qualified as an architect and wants to share his skills. He plans to travel overseas to teach at the University of the Arts, London. Can he come and perform those activities?
Depends on whether it's short term or permanent.
Yeah, he's only senior doctors and dentists can teach temporarily in the UK as a business visitor, so he would need to get sponsored to come in the UK, and there is no mention here that he is an expert in his field. He could be, but just with that generic, he's not recognized. If he was an expert, he would have to document to the Home Office that he is an icon here, you know, so, and he's required to give a lecture there, but if he's intending to actually teach at a university long term, he needs a visa. But thank you, Kim, that was really good, thank you. Last one, Angelica is a journalist with a keen interest in whether the UK media treats its global enemies fairly. Based in Seville, Angelica is planning to travel to the UK to carry out her research. Is she allowed to come to the UK to do that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to recruit you, Tom, in my team.
Gonna change departments.
She's a journalist, so she can visit the UK to gather information for overseas publication. Any questions about those scenarios?
Yeah, I'll throw one in for you if I may. Let's go back to Alexander. Sorry.
Go for it.
So Alexander opened his flower shop in the hometown of Munich. Great. Let's imagine that he's trading in Germany as a company, and his German company now creates a UK subsidiary company in the UK. Would that have changed your answer?
He would repeat
Sorry.
that. So he has a business in Munich and has a subsidiary, himself has a subsidiary in the UK?
Yeah. So the German company has a subsidiary in the UK. Will that change your answer?
It depends what he comes here to do. If he was to come here, he wouldn't be able to set himself up necessarily, but assuming he has a subsidiary in the UK, he would have to be sponsored to come and work here if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
But if he wants to come just to have meetings and make sure that the branch in Munich and the one in the UK all work, you know, they're all part of the same group and they all work the same way, then he would be able to come to the UK on a business visitor and just do those kind of activities and meeting, just attending meetings or training people the way he wants the flower, you know, how his father and like the flower arrangement and how he wants it as well. That's basically the brand of the group or the company, so he could do that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, sorry throwing you the curveball, but I thought it was good fun to do so.
Yeah, I knew. That's why I was like, oh my god. That's brilliant. I'm so pleased you're with us today, Mark.
Okay,
that's brilliant. Anyone else? So any questions, anyone? And I should have said as well, for example, if you're in manufacturing and you're part of a multinational company, or even not necessarily a multinational, but you're manufacturing and you bought your machinery from overseas and things are not working well and you need someone from that company in India or America to come and fix it, they can come and fix that machinery. That is allowed. So those are the type of activities that, you know, within the either a group or that can be performed, so to fix the machinery. So that's what I had to say for now, but please do ask away, ask questions.
I have a bit of an insight. Forgive me for the rest of the audience. I don't know obviously what your experience with business visas is, but we actually have quite a robust system in place where, from a base level, we ask, what are you coming to do in the UK? And our lovely associates have sneaky ways of using words to disguise, we're going to be coming here to work. So you do get used to it after sort of 15 years of what those changes in words mean. We challenge everything, but we limit any business visits to 3 weeks, absolute maximum. And it has to be, if they want to extend it, that it has to have our BU head approval. We have to scrutinise it again. Insofar as we actually, we're very fortunate that we have an internal travel team that we tell them this is the return flight. No longer. So if they put 6 weeks, no, you knock them back 3 weeks. We also send the information to our finance team. It's quite difficult with us because we do have fixed bid as well as T&M, just to make sure that they're not being billed for that time that they're in the UK. We really do drill down before we even give a letter for an application, and where we've got somebody travelling. For our senior manager, we tend not to challenge it too much because they're not going to be, our software developers that are coming into a client site to have KT sessions or something. But even if they're returning on an existing visa, we will process, what are you coming to the UK for, before we'll issue a letter to support them going through UK border force. So I'll be honest with you, I hate business visas. I think they're probably one of the most troublesome ones that could get you into a heap of trouble. I have had the UK VI caseworker ring me on several occasions saying they basically give you half a query so that you finish the sentence, so it verifies what they're saying or what they're actually asking. We really are, even with our intra-company associates who are here to work, we do not allow them to work while they're in India. If you're going back to India, you're on holiday. So you have to be sort of quite strict with it and basically not allow anything that's billable. They're not paid while they're here, and we actually really limit the time that they come here. Now, my question to that is what Mark, you were saying about the taxation thing. Are we right in restricting that so much? I mean, it doesn't tend to hinder what we're doing, but we do feel that anything above 3 weeks could move into that. We're actually going to start working, which is why we limit it to 3 weeks.
I would totally agree with you, Kim. And whilst the limit might be 30 days, it frightens the heck out of me when people start getting to 28, 29. I think sitting yourself at 3 weeks is a really good idea. So the answer to your question is, I think you're doing a super job. And I love the contribution you're making to this. It's great. Can I share one that I've seen one of my clients do, and it did work for them? Mm-hmm. They were in the UK. They were getting quite too close to their 30-day limit of working in the UK. And I think it was Eva who said about not working all day on emails, for example, which I agree with. And this chap just had to get a report done for his business whilst he was in the UK. He didn't have a choice, but he was getting so close to his 30 days. And the one that we did for that was we booked him onto a flight to France at 8 p.m. or something. I'm making up a date, a time. I don't know if it was 8 p.m. But he went to the departure lounge at 10 a.m. During the departure lounge, you're deemed, according to tax, not to be in the UK because you're in the departure lounge. So he could sit in the departure lounge all day, type his report, jump on an aeroplane, go to France, get on the next flight back, and was back in the UK that night.
Oh, wow.
Because he was using the departure lounge for some work.
Interesting. No man's land.
No
man's land.
Effectively, yes, because you've gone through border control. Metaphorically, your passport's been stamped, hasn't it? I'm not suggesting for a moment that people try to do that. It was a necessary evil that we had to perform one day.
It's quite difficult because obviously we have specific client contracts, and the workers we have coming over do genuinely come to do a KT session, or they're working on the next part of the project, and it's intra-training.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's I hate them.
But seriously, Kim is absolutely brilliant. She has systems. She's quite a tough lady. That's why she is so good at her job in managing the immigration, the visas, and making sure that because your company has a sponsor license as well, doesn't it?
We
Kim?
do, yeah.
So you don't want to lose that. So you need to make sure. That's another comment I should make. If you're in a situation like Kim, working for a company that hold a sponsorship license and sponsor migrant workers, any issue you have, or if you do anything wrong with business visitors, would have an impact on that license and any migrant that you're sponsoring. So you have to be extremely careful. That's why she's so strict, and rightly so, because it can have major consequences on the UK business and the group as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's I always, like, Kim, it's always nice to have you on board as much as Mark, because you bring such a different insight into the immigration world, being from a huge company in-house dealing. I mean, that's your job, what you do on a day-to-day basis. That's all you do. That shows that how much work and you have, and people that are coming in and out of the UK, and so it's quite a major task. So really appreciate your insight into this.
Just one last thing, Patricia, just to mirror what you were saying. I completely and utterly agree with what you're saying about, if you say you're leaving in 2 weeks, leave in 2 weeks. And I always say to my associates when they've got family coming over on a visit visa, that if you don't know when you're going to leave, put it to 6 weeks, but leave at 3, because it looks better from an integrity point of view. That, you're not technically overstaying, but you're not overstaying, because that will go. I have had it in the past where, somebody's father stayed up to the maximum 6 months. And whilst he's allowed to do that, he said he was only going to be here for a month. That really kicked him in the knees. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Be honest.
Yeah.
And, keep a track and a log of everything and the reasons that when you're audited, whether it be someone, like an audit company or the Home Office, that you can actually justify what you did and why.
Yeah.
Really, really do agree with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I guess, sorry, Mark, go for it.
I was going to echo behind what Kim has just said, because from a tax perspective, yes, you keep all those really meticulous records, but you keep them for a long time. And I want them kept for 7 years. We were involved with a dispute, and the client was saying things about what happened some years prior, but he didn't have the evidence. HMRC then sent the letter from the Home Office with the details of every flight they had been on for the last 7 years. So the tax office got access to all these records through the Home Office. We need them too. So you don't want to put yourself in that situation where you don't have good records. You must keep good records.
That's a very interesting one. Thank you so much, Mark, because, from an immigration point of view, we would always advise, you have to be careful with GDPR, and there are obviously exceptions to keeping personal data when it's to comply with the law, or you have a genuine reason. But immigration, we always say, let's say your right to work checks, and it's throughout the life of the employment and 2 years after they terminated. But fair point, Mark, because that is just immigration, but we have to think about other area of the business that it could come and bite you, that you have to keep the information.
Well, HMRC use what they call the discovery rules, which allows them to go back 7 years. So they're discovering new facts, so they can go back 7 years. So which is how we end up with our timetables.
That's really good. Oh, thank you so much. I think there was something else I wanted to mention, but I forgot. But if I remember, I'll ping you all an email. I think it's been really good. We could discuss this topic at length for even longer. I think there's when we start talking about specific scenarios, it can get a bit tricky. Definitely, if you are unsure, that's what I was going to say, Kim. I'm sure you do that. review your license, make sure that you know, that your house is in order. Take the pulse, you know, once, I don't know, every 6 months, depending on how busy you are, just to make sure, and put notes on files if you've discovered or you weren't sure about something. And or now I'm talking from an immigration point of view, how, let's say, oh, I didn't like the way this went, we're fine, but I've implemented this process to make sure this doesn't happen again, so that I always, like Kim, I am always aware of, you know, the whereabouts of this employee coming to visit the UK branch or something like that. Those are quite handy notes to have and keep records of, and because you never know if the Home Office was to come and visit you, at least you don't have to panic. Everything is on your file, everything is there. And if you're not there and you're the one who dealt with the situation, whoever took over or inherited of those files, they have everything there to explain it. That is a very important and a very important thing to do, I would say. Is there any other questions?
No, but unfortunately, Patricia, I'm going to have to love you and leave you. I've got another meeting that started.
No problem. Well, we are done. I was just going to say thank you so much, everyone. Kim, feel free to go, and we'll catch up at another point. And what I'll do, I hope you really find it, this webinar, very useful. If you have any questions, do get in touch. I assume, Mark, you've put your details in the chat box.
I put them in the chat box. Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I might just pin you all an email, so you have my contact details, but you also have Mark's. So if you have any questions in dealings with business visitors or just immigration cases with a tax element to it, and you just want to square it with a an amazing accountant, you'll have the details, if that's all right with everyone. Good.
Well done,
Eva says, thank you, sorry for the pronunciation. She says, thank you very much for the shared knowledge. My audio was broken and couldn't speak up.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been absolutely lovely. So I hope I will see you again in our next webinar. And another thing, if you think of any other topics, or you want us to review this particular topic, by all means do let us know. And I can also speak to Mark. I don't know if he says he offers training as well. So if you have any specific, I've put you on the spot there, Mark. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I was just thinking what we ought to do is do a sort of a double header, maybe, that we can do something. And yeah, I'm always amenable. I'm always trying to help.
Fabulous. To be honest, I just think that Mark and I personally think we work really well, and we really try to support each other's business. And I really think it complements each other's business quite well as well. So it's very, very, very important. And you made me realize, or brought things to my attention that maybe I wouldn't have thought of, that are very important, crucial to my clients. So I really appreciate that. So I will leave you all. Thank you very much for everything. Watch out for my email, and we'll be in touch shortly.